Okay, everyone, buckle up because we're about to dive into a hypothetical scenario so wild, so out there, that it might just make your head spin. Imagine waking up one morning, turning on the news, and bam, Canada is officially the 51st state. I'm talking maple syrup and hockey pucks under the Star-Spangled Banner. Now, before you start drafting your welcome to America, eh? Banners? Let's think about the implications. We're not just talking about adding another star to the flag. We're talking about redrawing the map of the world, both literally and figuratively. How would this impact the balance of global power? Would it be a match made in North American heaven, or would it lead to a whole new world of problems? In this video, we're going deep down the rabbit hole to explore the what-ifs, from military might to economic power, from population density to political influence. We're breaking down every angle of this hypothetical merger, and hey, this is purely for intellectual curiosity, not a political endorsement. Got it? All right, let's get started. Let's start with the most obvious change, the sheer size of the new United States. Right now, the US covers a massive chunk of land, about 9.8 million square kilometers. But Canada's playing in a whole other league. It's the second largest country on Earth, covering 9.9 million square kilometers. Do the math and you get a combined land mass of almost 19.8 million square kilometers. That's bigger than Russia, bigger than Antarctica, bigger than anything else on this planet. We're talking about a country so vast it could stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific and beyond. But here's where things get complicated. Can a single state really be that enormous? Think about it. California's already a behemoth and it's dwarfed by Texas. Could a single state like, say, British Columbia really encompass that much territory and still function effectively? We're talking about massive distances, diverse ecosystems, and unique regional identities, governing a landmass that vast, from the icy plains of the Yukon to the bustling cities of the South, would present some serious logistical and political challenges. Remember, the Founding Fathers designed the state system to ensure representation and prevent tyranny. A mega-state like this could upset that balance, potentially giving too much power to one region at the expense of others. So while the idea of a supersized United States might sound impressive on paper, the reality would be far more complex. It would require a complete rethinking of how the country is organized and governed. And that, my friends, is where things start to get really interesting. Okay, so maybe absorbing all of Canada as one giant state isn't the most practical solution. But what if we carved it up a bit? Instead of one massive addition, we're talking about integrating multiple new states into the Union. Let's start with the obvious candidates. British Columbia, with its Pacific coastline and booming economy, could easily stand on its own, much like California. Then you've got Alberta and Saskatchewan, the breadbasket provinces, rich in resources and agriculture. They could either be combined or stand as separate entities. Moving east, we hit the powerhouses Ontario and Quebec. These two provinces are home to major cities, diverse populations, and distinct cultural identities. They'd undoubtedly wield significant political and economic clout within the new United States. The eastern provinces, with their maritime heritage and unique cultures, might form one or two additional states. And then there's the great Canadian North, a vast and sparsely populated region rich in natural resources. It could potentially become a state of its own, presenting both opportunities and challenges for development and governance. If we went down this route, we wouldn't just be adding a 51st state, we'd be talking about a significant expansion of the Union, potentially adding 10 or more new stars to the flag. This would dramatically reshape the political landscape, shifting the balance of power in Congress and potentially leading to the rise of new political parties and movements. Of course, such a dramatic restructuring wouldn't come without its share of growing pains. Integrating different legal systems, social programs, and cultural norms would be a massive undertaking, but hey, that's a discussion for another chapter. All right, let's talk numbers. The United States currently boasts a population of around 333 million people. Canada, on the other hand, has a relatively small population for its size, clocking in at around 40 million. So if we combined the two, we'd be looking at a total population of roughly 373 million. Now, that might sound like a huge jump, but in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't exactly catapult the US to the top of the population charts. China and India would still hold the top two spots, leaving the US in a respectable third place. But population isn't just about sheer numbers, is it? It's also about demographics, skills, and cultural contributions. And in that regard, Canada brings a lot to the table. We're talking about a highly educated workforce, a strong commitment to social welfare, and a unique cultural blend that would add even more flavor to the American melting pot. But what about military might? Well, the US military is already a global powerhouse with the largest defense budget and the most advanced weaponry in the world. Canada's military, while significantly smaller, is nothing to sneeze at. They've got skilled personnel, advanced technology, and a strategic location that would be invaluable to the US. Think about it. Canada's northern border essentially becomes the new front line in a world increasingly focused on Arctic sovereignty. With control over the Northwest Passage and vast reserves of untapped resources, the US would gain a significant strategic advantage in the Arctic region. So, while the population boost might not be earth-shattering, the military and strategic implications of this merger are substantial. It would reshape the global balance of power and potentially lead to a new era of geopolitical competition. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite subject, money. The US currently boasts the world's largest economy with a GDP of around $27 trillion. Canada's economy, while significantly smaller, is still a force to be reckoned with, clocking in at around $2 trillion. So on paper, a merger would create an economic juggernaut, a $29 trillion behemoth that would dwarf all others. But would it really be that simple? Well, like most things in life, it's complicated. On the one hand, Canada brings a treasure trove of natural resources to the table. We're talking oil, natural gas, fresh water, timber, minerals, you name it, they've got it. This would give the US access to vast new reserves of energy and raw materials, reducing dependence on foreign imports and potentially giving them even greater control over global supply chains. But here's the catch. Merging two economies isn't like snapping your fingers. It would require massive investment in infrastructure, harmonizing regulations, and integrating financial systems. We're talking about potentially trillions of dollars in upfront costs, not to mention the inevitable economic hiccups and adjustments that come with any major transition. Then there's the question of economic disparity. Canada has a strong social safety net and a commitment to universal health care, while the US has a more market-driven approach. Reconciling these different systems would be a major challenge, potentially leading to political gridlock and social unrest. So, while the economic potential of a US-Canada merger is undeniable, realizing that potential would require careful planning, significant investment, and a willingness to compromise on both sides of the border. Okay, let's step back from the nitty-gritty of economics and demographics for a moment and consider the broader picture: global politics. The United States is already a global superpower, wielding significant influence in international affairs. But how would absorbing Canada change that dynamic? Well, for starters, it would solidify US dominance in North America. With control over such a vast landmass, the US would be in a commanding position to project power and influence throughout the region. This would have major implications for trade, security, and diplomacy, potentially leading to a more integrated and US-led North American bloc. But it's not just about North America. Remember, Canada is a member of the Commonwealth with close ties to the United Kingdom and other former British colonies. A merger with the US would likely strain those relationships, potentially weakening the Commonwealth and forcing the UK to reassess its global role. Then there's the issue of Quebec. With its strong French identity and history of separatist movements, Quebec could become a major source of tension within the new United States. Would they be content as just another state, or would they demand greater autonomy, potentially reigniting calls for independence? And let's not forget about the global players, China and Russia. They're already wary of US power, and this merger would undoubtedly raise eyebrows in Beijing and Moscow. They might see it as a direct challenge to their own ambitions, potentially leading to increased military build-up, economic competition, or even diplomatic standoffs. In short, the political fallout from a US-Canada merger would be significant, reshaping alliances, igniting tensions, and potentially ushering in a new era of global realignment. Well, there you have it. We've explored the hypothetical scenario of Canada becoming part of the United States, examining everything from the geographical implications to the economic, military, and political fallout. We've seen how this merger could create the largest country in the world, reshaping global politics and dramatically expanding US power. But the question remains, would it be a good thing? Would the benefits of this union outweigh the potential drawbacks? Could two nations, with such distinct histories, cultures and identities, truly merge into one? These are complex questions with no easy answers. It's a thought experiment that sparks the imagination and forces us to confront the challenges and opportunities of a rapidly changing world. What do you think? Could this ever actually happen, or is it just a fantasy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, this was all hypothetical, a thought experiment, not a political statement.